Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Again, welcome to Focus on Liberia on this Sunday. On the day that we fall back, our clock, we adjusted our clock 1 hour backwards. We want to say welcome to Focus on Liberia Primetime Sunday. We are speaking about some current issues in our country on Primetime Sunday. And we start with the mysterious death in Monrovia, Liberia. Former Vice President Joseph Numa Boakai visit to the United States, and President Weah at the Climate Change Conference in Glasgow. Again, welcome to Focus on Liberia. With me to discuss this, I have Mr. Weah, who's the educational analyst at Focus on Liberia. Mr. Weah, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Next, I have the FOL policy analyst, Mrs. Carl Famula, joining us. Carl, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
It's always good to be here.
Last and definitely not the least is the host of Everything Liberia, Madam Jessica Jare, commonly known as Lady J. Jessica, welcome to Focus on Liberia. It looks like we have some issues there with your... Jessica, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Again, we want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia. We are going to be discussing some current issues here. And first thing is we start with, first of all, how are you all doing?
Great.
All right. Today was a fallback. Did any of you oversleep or you like the 1 hour that we gain on the clock?
I don't know if everyone has daylight savings time. I didn't even notice. I woke up and I was like, oh, I got to change the time on my refrigerator, on my stove, you know, the manual stuff.
The manual ones, right?
Yeah, that's why they always do it on Sunday, because people like me don't notice.
And there are some states that are saying they don't want that anymore.
Well, there are some states that don't
I mean, the reason it exists is no longer relevant. I mean, necessary. It was really based on agriculture. The northern states needed to be able to have more daylight hours when the earth was further away from the sun in the winter, and you know, that's no longer necessary, I don't think, with all the technology they use in farming and agriculture these days.
All right, let's get. Oh, sister, you were saying something. Go ahead, then we can get back to you.
I was saying there are some states that don't carry that out, like Arizona.
Right, which is smart.
Well, I don't know about the smart part of that, but yeah, they don't observe it. There's a whole lot of reasons why they don't. I don't think it was because of being smart, but that's for a different day.
All right, so I will play. At the beginning of the show, we played President Weah's speech at the Climate Change Conference. I want to show you some pictures here, you know, just to introduce the things that we're going to be talking about today. And Jessica is having some issues there. Jessica, when you're ready, just give me a signal. So let's start with, we know that we see the President Weah there at the conference, and wow, the president, you know, President's looking good. President Weah with President Biden. Those were the pictures that came out. We see there, like that COVID-19 handshake. Who's this guy? I don't know. And then we also have, yes, President Weah still, you know, some photo out there at the climate change conference. Let's see what else we have. And then we also have some pictures of the murders that's going on. But let's start with the murder. It's been a very tough week in Monrovia with people, some mysterious death yet again. And the three prominent ones from left to right, we have Dr. William R. Tolbert III, that's the son of President Tolbert, Mandy Elliott, and John Hillary Tubman. All three were murdered in their homes with a deep cut to the neck and stab wound to the forehead. That's the news we got. and two of them are sons of former presidents. We shouldn't forget the auditors or people that have to do with finance. They died in April of this year, and there's this group called the Citizens United Against Secret Killings. So these were some death again. Before that, we had other deaths like Matthew Innes, Odell Schemmer, and the list goes on. Hearing about these three recent deaths, Cecil, let me start with you. What's going on here? What comes to your mind?
Well, first thing, I am saddened and would like to send my prayers to everybody who's losing loved ones unexpectedly in Liberia. Not just the three that we heard of recently, but I'm guessing there might be others that we don't get to hear of. It is a sad thing. It is very sad, especially when you start to look at people who have access to wealth, and those people don't have access to security. So if you try to juxtapose that and think about, well, what's of the common Liberian who does not have access to as much wealth as a toddler or toddman, how much security can that person afford, and how secure is that person? So this is very serious, and I think that there has to be a very major decision taken by the government to ensure that these crimes are not just investigated, but that crime rate as a whole in the republic can be lowered.
Carl?
Of course, my thoughts and prayers are with the family members. I'm concerned about justice investigations. It has been almost a month since John Tubman was murdered. They have put out, wanted posters for two individuals. I just think that this thing should, be solved. Liberia is very small. Other countries the size of Liberia, when these kinds of murders take place, the police usually are able to apprehend people relatively quickly. I don't know if our law enforcement lacks the resources to do proper investigations. I know that there are some very well-trained law enforcement people in Liberia. Whether or not they're able to actually, because this kind of thing takes resources. It's one thing to be trained. It's another thing to not have what they need in order to do their jobs. That being said, we are a member of Interpol. I don't know about Mr. Tubman, but Bill Talbert, his execution, his murder, I would believe falls within the jurisdiction of Interpol. And I think that the government should ask for support. We've been members of Interpol since the 1940s. We've been a member of Interpol, and we need to ask for that support from both regional Interpol agents to try to get to the bottom of some of this stuff. The fact that we haven't done so is shocking. I mean, there's arguments the government's making about the auditors weren't murdered and all this kind of thing, but they cannot say that Bill Talbert was not murdered. So they need to figure out, how they're going to get the resources to investigate this properly and bring this, bring some justice, bring this to closure for the family. If they don't do that, it's going to cause some problems as far as people having trust that the government's able to protect them. It just doesn't look good.
Right. And let me go to Jessica, if you're ready. You're on mute. Yeah, Jessica, we started with the recent 3 murders or mysterious deaths in Monrovia. Hearing that the news, what's your take? What's your initial reaction to such death news or mysterious death news?
I first want to send out my condolences to the family. I can't imagine how they feel at this time. It's different when your loved one dies from a terminal, illness compared to if they are murdered. And based on some of the pictures that I can see from other journalists, I'm not an investigator, but I can deduce that these people were murdered. And it's sad that these things are going on in, I would say, law enforcement don't have any encouragement to do something about it. And based on the way the murders were done, I will also say it looks like a serial kind of murder because they were done in like a similar fashion. And security in the country then will be questioned internationally because these people were not just your, um, regular Yabaoro. They were elite people that live in our community from, elite families of presidents and things like that. So they have their international connections from the time their families or their fathers were presidents up to now. They still have the international connections. And it's not just going to be left. I don't know who ordered these murders. I don't know why the murders were done. I don't understand why there aren't any investigation being, you know, put into place. And if there is, why there aren't any updates about these things. And these are the things that are bugging me when it comes to this, because I feel that, again, as the previous, my fellow, the co-host, the lady co-host, Ms. Fambula, as she rightly stated, um, Liberia is a small country. And when these things happen, we're supposed to be able to come up with some start of an investigation to tell the public that this is kind of where we are, but nothing has been done. And that is unacceptable.
Right. And Jessica, if you could turn your phone or your landscape view to see that we can get a better picture there. So, and let me come back to you, Mr. Goya has to, I know in Reverend Dr. Tabra's death, the police is saying this looked like a murder. Have we been able to hear anything about what could be the motive? Because you see, these are high profile, people that were killed in their homes. Have we ever heard anything about the motive?
Well, the Justice Ministry, I think their press release did not say anything about that. But I won't be surprised, though. I mean, I'm not an expert in law enforcement, but when you follow even how law enforcement works everywhere around the world, most times when there is an active case that is being investigated, the authorities place their card close to their vest. So I would not be surprised if they haven't said anything about motive yet. But no, not to my knowledge, I've not heard anything about what would be the reason or reasons for the recent murders or for any other murders that have taken place, ever. So no.
Right. And Cobb, we may have an issue of probably the resources or the trained personnel, but we are not getting any updates as to what's going on. If they are investigating, normally what we're used to in the West is the police will continue to give us some updates as to what is happening or how far the investigation is. I'm not hearing anything. Maybe you do. What are you hearing?
So it just depends on the kind of murder, in the West. So in certain circumstances, they don't necessarily give updates. They'll just, say the investigation's ongoing. In Mr. Tubman's case, they've released, photos and names of people of interest. We can assume that those people of interest are murder suspects. I honestly don't need updates. I don't need to know step by step what's going on. I'm not going to be able to add anything to a value by knowing that information. I just want to make sure that the government is utilizing all the resources that are available to Liberian law enforcement to be able to solve this case and bring some justice and bring some sanity to the society, because people are scared. They're thinking if these people, these high profile people can be killed and no one has been apprehended, that's not good for the ordinary average Joe. There's a lot of murders that have taken place that have remained unsolved. There was a woman that was her body was thrown in the trash heap, and no one has been arrested. You know, so there's a lot of these things, these unsolved murders. It sends chills up the spines of people. It makes people very uncomfortable about visiting. They're having this huge year of return coming up, and you're not able to solve the murder of, you know, the sons of two former presidents. That could never happen in even, you know, a small country like Sierra Leone. I don't understand what, you know, why it's taking so long, and I'm hoping that that they utilize the resources that are available to them outside of the country, to be able to solve this case and bring some sanity to the situation. Um, you know, like I said, I'm not a law enforcement expert, but I do understand on a policy level that at least with the Bill Talbert case, Interpol, it is within Interpol jurisdiction for reasons I don't care to bring up right now, but they know that. They know they can call on Interpol to resolve that situation.
Right. And what has been, the history of our government or our law enforcement, solving or solving any of these murders or giving us, you know, investigating and kind of bringing people to book, giving justice. Do we have a history? I know that in the case of the 6 auditors, we like to call them. It's not all of them were auditors, though. They did some investigation and told us what happened or what may likely happen. Besides that, we don't see much again. Mr. Nathaniel Barnes wrote an article in the paper and he outlined some of those murders. And let me put them on the screen so that just we see what's going on here. It started with Dr. William R. Talbert, November 1, Mount Elliot, October 31, John Tudmore, September 22, and unidentified woman on the 17th Street, also in September this year. It goes back to Mordecai Newman in May, Melvin Early in 2021, February, that's the EPS guy, Florence Massacre, February, Robert Blamo. It goes on, Bobby S. Benque in 2021, Siafa Boyman, Albert Peters, Gifty Lama, that's part of the auditors, Elijah Pullman, 2020, Ibrahim Tume, George Fambutu, and then Matthew Innes in 2019. A lot of murders. And then not forgetting the missing boys at those missing young men that were at the gold mine that had linked with people that St. Moses funeral home. Jessica, these are murders that took place within a period of 3 years, most especially under President Weah. What does it say about the administration? Because, and I will go back because this thing didn't start soon, but with all these murders taking place in this period of time, what does that say about our government and law enforcement?
I mean, in government, every government has the different categories that, like jobs that people are supposed to do. I feel that the security system of this government has been very poor, but it's not different from previous governments though, because there are murders from previous governments that was not solved. We have a bunch of unsolved murders from the time I've been knowing myself, those time up to this time. So this is not a new thing. And I hate to make it seem as if it's a new thing. I think some Liberians have political Alzheimer's when it comes to each government and how they relate and say these things. This is not a new thing to us, Dennis. This has been happening for as long as I can remember. I'll talk about dual government because that was when I knew myself. I was born during Talbert's time. And at the end of the day, we have from Tubman to Tarbell to Doe to Charles Taylor to Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, and now this government. But what I would say is now that we're in a different era of technology, where the social media is vibrant, and we never had it at that time. People use word of mouth to talk about these things in radio, and now every Tom, Dick, and Harry has a camera like you, and they can come out here and give their part of the story. Politics has been watered down to mere gossip and speculations, and at the end of the day, are we really having logical discussions as to what is going on, or we're just blaming a sitting government because they happen to be sitting ducks?
That's a fair assessment there, Mr. Goya. These are not new. The frequency or the way they occur now may be a little, recurring faster. But we saw the mysterious death of Mr. Harry Greaves and other people, a few years ago, under President Sirleaf. I'm using that president just as an error, not kind of faulting the president. So is this the new normal in Liberia? And this is not new, basically.
I don't think it's new, but I don't think it should be normalized either. I just want to put a caveat out here so people who are watching us realize that I want to name it. I want to name that it is wrong because I'm listening to I'm getting some nuances there somehow because it's a former president's son that his life is worth more than the unidentified lady who was found on the beach. We should be equally disgusted when people are murdered and when there's a senseless loss of life, regardless of your economic power or regardless of your proximity to wealth or power. Let's just name that out there, because we should be as angry and calling for all of the justice system to intervene for the unidentified lady on the beach, just as we are of the son of the late President Tauber and the late President Tubman. I just want to put that out there so people know where I'm coming from. Now, having said that, the idea of people dying, people being killed in Liberia is not new, and I appreciate Jessica for bringing that up, because what comes to mind is, for example, Patrolman Melvin Pine. Right, we still remember that dude, and Harry Greaves. You brought that up. Look, one thing I would like to see, and one thing that's creating a vacuum for the way we discuss these issues, is that look, what is the crime data? Crime happens everywhere that we live, even in these United States. There are times where in Chicago, for example, they had the highest murder rate in the last 10 years just this year. Right. So if the police department or the justice ministry is able to give us crime data, we can then be able, as analysts or as people who are interested, can then sit and see, okay, well, is murder really on the increase? Or is it decreasing? Is violent crime really on the increase in this government versus other governments? Or is it just because, like Jessica rightfully said, that now most people have access to technology and they can record these things and it's easy to amplify to the word, whereas before we didn't have those access. No one murder is okay. But I think we're discussing this in a vacuum because we cannot point to a data that says, well, Tubman time, people were not murdered as much and justice was served. I mean, we had a Boyo situation going on. And nobody can say in Tubman time, a murder was less. And we can't definitely come to Doe or to Sawyer or to Taylor or to Ellen because we don't have the data. And so one of the best things that our government can start to do is maybe start having those data and start collecting those data and letting us know. So that way we can make a judgment and say, well, in the month of February, there was more crime, more violent crimes in the city than has been in the last 5, 6, 7 years. Then we can start to look at what accounts for that, who's responsible, who's not responsible, what are mitigating things that we can do, or we can ask the government to do to ensure that they're saving and protecting lives. In the absence of that, this is just going to be, one of those things where it is, my data, I know it. I see they announced that 7 people have been murdered in the last 1 week, so the whole is on fire. Versus back then when we didn't have social media, there might have been more people dying in the same time frame. Again, no one death is okay,
Right.
but we're discussing in a vacuum.
But Mr. Goya, how is that important, right? And I'm not trying to dismiss what you're saying, but how is that important if more people died last year than this year? The fact of the matter is these deaths are current, they are mysterious, and they've not been solved.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the point. If you listen to what I said no one death is okay. But I'm telling you now, if we just start analytical and start calling for example, my sister is calling for Interpol to come and take over the justice system in Liberia, that we are at a point right now where things are falling through the sky. We cannot have that discussion outside of having data. That's the point I'm making.
Okay, but let's look at the like the ones that were in the news. And again, when I say Ellen time, I'm just using that period. I'm not really dividing that into presidents or holding any administration responsible. There are more being reported now than we had before in the papers and in the news. Will we agree that that's a fact?
Oh, yes.
The reason for that may be unknown, but let me go to call.
Yeah. So I mean,
yeah,
that was a little bit absurd. I've never called for foreigners to take over the justice system of Liberia. That is really absurd. What I said is Bill Talbert's death is within the jurisdiction of Interpol. Liberia is a member state of the International Police. This is considered within the jurisdiction of Interpol, and Interpol has resources to investigate. What I also said is I don't know if any of the other cases are within the jurisdiction of Interpol, but definitely Bill Talbert's case is. I'm not sure of.
And why is that, called?
So can you give us the background? And then
so
if the other people.
So that's, well, like I said earlier, I would rather not get into that right now, but I do know that it is within the jurisdiction of Interpol, his specific death. There are many reasons that people are under the jurisdiction of Interpol. It can be having a citizenship in a foreign country and being murdered somewhere else. It can be your previous work as a global peace ambassador and having that distinction, being that type of prominent individual that served at that global diplomatic level, that puts you within the jurisdiction of Interpol. There are many things that qualify Bill Talbert's death for an international investigation as opposed to some of the others, which, like I said, I'm not aware. I don't have as much knowledge of Mr. Tubman and his background as I do of Mr. Talbert. That being said, at no time would I ever call for international people to overtake justice systems in Liberia. I'm a proponent of our sovereignty. That's beside the point. The other issue is that doesn't mean I'm giving more value to one person's life or another person's life. I'm stating facts, and I think I'm stating them clearly. What was the other part of your question, Dennis?
You answer it.
Okay, so I just want to clarify that my previous statement before I answered your question. So I just wanted to know if that answers your question as well.
Right. No, I just wanted to, comparing, looking at these things happen. But let me ask you a different question as to how because this is our country, right? I know President Weah, we're going to get to it. He was at the climate change conference calling for, Liberia to host a conference, right? We have our fellow diaspora Liberians here. They're having the year of the return. And in the midst of these security issues, there is a concern, right? If people are disappearing. So what, in your view, what is the impact? What is the impact of these mysterious deaths, especially being unsolved, to what we want to do, what we want to accomplish as a country when it comes to the year of the return? What President
security is important. Liberia is not the only country that has unsolved murders. There's unsolved murders here in the United States. There's unsolved murders everywhere. What makes Liberia particularly prone to people not having confidence in the security sector? Contrary to what my colleague here just said, we do have statistics. Liberia keeps crime statistics, and crime statistics are kept annually. So to say we have no stats, we have no data is just not the case. There are the Liberia Crime and Safety Report goes out on an annual basis. We're part of many international bodies that we report to. I don't, I'm not going to sit here and act like there's not grown men and women that work in law enforcement in Liberia who are trained. When things are reported, that data is definitely collected. That's how we know how many rape cases have been reported. That doesn't mean that's all the rapes that occurred, but that's what's been reported. So the data is kept. Whether or not people have confidence in that data, that's up to them. But to say it doesn't exist is false. You can just Google Liberia Crime and Safety Reports. There's reports published on this stuff. So now that being said, if you read a crime and safety report and the percentage of crimes that go unsolved and unpunished is higher, so it doesn't mean that there's not crimes in other places, but the percentage of crimes that go unsolved are higher than in other places. It reduces people's confidence in law enforcement and how safe they'll be. So, if they feel that you can get murdered in Liberia and nobody will be punished, the likelihood of people committing crimes, if they're not going to be punished for it, goes up, right? So I think, we need to bridge that gap, because if you do I'm looking at a spreadsheet right now, if you do a comparison between Liberia and Sierra Leone, the percentage of crimes that were committed and the percentage of crimes that were solved, Sierra Leone solves far more crimes than Liberia does. That's a problem. And we need to bridge that gap. And these statistics are going back. I like to compare Liberia to similar countries when we're looking at this type of data. But even compared to Sierra Leone, which also had a civil war and had some issues, although they didn't have the infrastructure damage that we did, they're able to solve crimes at a higher rate than we are. And that's unfortunate for us.
Thank you. Thank you. And I hate to bring politics into this, but in Liberia, especially when anytime you talk about what's happening, people who defend the government will say, first of all, those who oppose the government will heighten this to make it like the sky is falling. Those who defend the government will say, hey, what's about this period of time? What's about even the United States where you live? Look at Chicago. So these two areas always clash when we come to anything that's happening in Liberia. But for murder like the one we're seeing, they should be non-partisan. But we still see these things happening, Jessica. Those who defend the government say crimes happen everywhere, even in the United States. Those who oppose the government say this was never like this Ellen time. What's your view on politicizing these issues, and how do we get to solve them if politics get in the mix?
You see, the bad thing about the state of our country right now is everything is politics. And it's become sad because you can't say anything without being politically involved some kind of way or sending some subliminal political message across. And it becomes confusing because I've seen some of my colleague talk show hosts get online. Somebody was raped, and instead of them talking about the rape as a crime, they go straight for the government. It's the government of Liberia that allowing the rape to happen. So that the reason why the rape happening. And rape has been happening since Talbot time. I will continue to say Talbot or Tubman because that's the history I know that has come down from that place. So we're not doing ourselves any like a favor when we don't differentiate economics, we don't differentiate human rights, we don't differentiate politics, we don't differentiate law or crime and all these things. Everything is just bundled into one big ball. Sometimes I even come up here non-political and put some news up here, and somebody gonna attack me because they think that I am being, for example, great example, the last time when the Japanese joined with the president to give these fishing things to the fishing and devices to the fishermen across Liberia. I put there, President Weah presented. Somebody came on my post to tell me that I was being CDCN. I wasn't being objective enough, because I said the president presented it, I should have given the story different. So we are locked into this place where everything in our country is political. To answer your question, lives are lost in different countries every day. But most countries that I know about, especially the well-developed ones, these crimes are solved, or half of them are solved. In our country, that's not the case. So it becomes a concern. But this is not something it's been something that's been going on for a long time. So let's talk about how people mindset works when it comes to what their perception is about what has been done. Some people, I will give my perception. I've played devil's advocate here. I might say there's an opposition serial killer out there that wants to make this government look bad. So at the end of the day, they're killing. And they know that nobody's going to look towards the opposition. I've seen opposition do some real crazy things on the internet here, where they put people pictures to some other pictures and make the people gullible that don't know how to read and to do logical thinking. So it could be an opposition that's doing this to make this government look bad. It could be a government official syndicate that is doing this because they feel that they're in power. It could be somebody that is non-governmental, non-opposition, just a serial killer going around and hacking people because they feel they have an agenda or they have some revenge. But we don't know, because there's no investigation. So how can we come up with any concrete like information to be able to like say, yeah, this is what's happening? But these are things that I would say should be thought about when it comes to these things. We shouldn't only think about the government. We should think about all the other things that could be involved or that could be happening, because when our minds are open to think, it makes people scared. And when people become scared and awareness is created, things happen differently. Right now, everybody thinking about the government. Why don't we open our mindset more? Who gets to really feel the heat internationally and, amongst the people of Liberia is the government that gets to feel this heat because they're saying XYZ. So what are the law enforcement people within this government trying to do to unravel what is really going on? Because the burden is on them to let us know, hey, this is what we found out, this is what's going on. But when they are just sitting there and there is not much information coming to us, there are not much murders being solved, then we get to feel
it looks like complacency.
It's the government. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Thank you. Mr. Goya, and I want us to conclude on this quickly. This is not in a vacuum. Quite recently, we overheard in a telephone conversation where Madam Ellen Cochran talking to our law enforcement chief about human heads and accusing President Weah, Minister McGill, and others of having a hand in ritualistic killing for that purpose. And I don't know if, this was a telephone conversation. I don't know if there was anything else done or if anyone was called to answer questions. So when these things are heard by top level people saying these things openly, and now we see these murders taking place, what do you want us to think?
Well, that was sad. That was a sad situation for our country. But I wanted to backtrack a little bit and I'll answer your question. I spoke of data. I said that the police should be releasing data so that they can be able to tell people the crime rate. They can be able to tell people the crime rate. That was my point. Not that data does not exist anywhere. And I think my fellow panelists made my point when she alluded to whether or not people will believe their data, because their point comes to Patrick Sudu recently when people were talking about ritualistic death and killings happening. He went on radio to say that there was no ritualistic killing going on. In fact, as a matter of fact, there were people taking their bodies from other places that had died of natural causes and bringing them places and creating scenes to go to what Jessica was saying. And so if you are collecting data, if you're the one in charge of collecting data, the National Police, and you are already, skewing the data for us, how are we supposed to say, rightfully what is happening, what is not happening? Now, having said that, for the Solicitor General of the Republic of Liberia to be so nonchalant and comfortable on a phone call with somebody who is charged in Liberia for a serious crime. Forget about waiting to go to jail in America, right? You can say, well, that's not my jurisdiction in America. But she's charged of a serious crime in Liberia. For the Solicitor General to be so comfortable with having a conversation, let's for a minute forget about the horror of the content of that conversation. But having that level of relaxed conversation was sad. It was bad. And to start talking about death and ritualistic killings and people killing for positions, and for our Solicitor General to be in such a conversation, that was bad. That was horrible. I really expected Musa Dean, who has the justice ministry and our justice apparatus, to have at least put our Solicitor General on a leave of absence to have some conversations at minimum. But to answer your question, nothing happened. And yes, and if stuff like that come up and nothing happens, and then high profile murders like these occur, like the Torber and the Tubman, then of course everybody start to fear for their lives. And that's why I opened the conversation with saying, if a Torber, an ambassador who has had access to wealth and access to power, can be murdered in his own home. Imagine somebody living on Peace Island who makes less than $100 a year. How comfortable is that person supposed to feel about their security? So to answer your question, Dennis, for me, that was a sad situation. I think Musa Dean missed a chance to make a correction in the justice system. You should have at minimum placed Serena Cephas on an administrative leave and have some serious conversation with them.
Carl, how do we move forward? And earlier I quoted an article written by our former ambassador to the U.S., Mr. Nathaniel Barnes. And since he ran for president, and I'm not trying to pick on me, I'm just using it as an example, I really not heard much from him until this recent article, when it looks like, to me, it looks like, when I read that, it looks like the death hit close to home for him, because I didn't see that outrage, that outcry when other murders were being committed. So I'm here wondering, are we, because, and this is against the backdrop that political leaders or these political parties, they are in the limelight when they are running for president, they are talking all over the place, but when they fall off the radar, that's it. And Nathaniel Barnes has not said anything publicly that I know of until this recent death. And I was asking myself, is it because he feels that he's next? Is it because he feels that this is very close to him? Is that why he's talking now? My question is, what is the outcry from all quarters of our society, especially those that have power, like Mr. Barnes, in holding the government accountable when it comes to solving these kind of murders? Call, you are on mute.
I mean, I don't know. I can't, assume what Nat Burns' relationship was to Mr. Talbert or Mr. Tubman or anyone else that was killed. I know that when someone is murdered, for example, a very close friend of my husband's was killed. He was an EPS officer. And that hit close to home because I knew him personally. And, it hurt. It wasn't only just, outrage over a citizen being killed. It was personal at that point, because it's someone that had been to my home and, you know, ate at my dinner table. And so we're human beings. When your friend or your loved one is killed, it becomes personal. And the need for justice becomes personal. In his case, they said that he committed suicide. And so we are supposed to accept that because that is what the government has said. That's something I will never accept and I will never get over. So all governments, the government doesn't change. It's the Liberian government. It doesn't matter who the president is. It doesn't matter who 100 is. It doesn't matter who the Justice Ministry is. The purpose of government, one of the main purposes why we agree to have governments in the first place is security. You give up a little bit of your freedom, you pay taxes, you live in a society, you follow rules so that you can be safe. So human beings created the concept of governments and countries and this society thing that we, you know, belonging to a society or organized place so that you can be safe. And if the government can't keep you safe, it's not fulfilling one of its primary reasons for existing. This is a serious thing. It's a very serious thing. So I hear people say, oh, you know, we politicize everything. Safety and security is absolutely political. It's one of the primary purposes for the existence of government, period. This is why the state came into existence. So we have to blame the government when people are killed and it's not solved. And it doesn't matter who the president is. When you are president, you're responsible. You're the leader. You take responsibility. It is not a witch hunt to say, oh, we bad-mouthing the government. You cannot absolve the president of the Republic of Liberia when you have high-profile, unsolved murders, and you have the Justice Ministry and the police coming out with really foolish explanations that are very difficult to swallow.
Yeah.
It makes them lose credibility with the average person. I mean, in some cases, I know some of these things probably were not murders, but now we're going to just think everything is a murder. Anytime somebody's dead, it's, you know, just how people used to accuse everybody of witchcraft is going to, now everybody is being murdered because there's just no satisfaction. Nobody's comforting the public. Nobody's giving the public the confidence that we need to have in the government. And that's a problem. I remember Chris Massaquoi when he was 100. He commanded in such, you know, he commanded in such a manner. He commanded himself and conducted himself in such a manner that people felt that we had police in the country. When A.B. Cromash stood up, you know, and said something, he said so with such confidence and so much dignity that even you were anti, you know, government, you felt that we had law enforcement. The respect that people had, even members of opposition had for Chris Massaquoi and 102 and everybody. We don't, the society has lost that respect for these current leaders in law enforcement. And I know for a fact that there are a lot of very trained police in Liberia. I know many of them personally. I lived in Liberia, and my husband is close to a lot of very trained security personnel in that country, and they're not being utilized. A lot of them have been sidelined for political reasons, and that's another issue we need to discuss maybe another day. But we've got a lot of trained people that should be doing investigations sitting in desk jobs because they're not seditious.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Addie Tyler from Pennsylvania, and you're watching Focus on Liberia. Hi, my name is Addie Tyler from.
Let's now go to our next issue, which is former Vice President Joseph N. Boakai's visit to the United States. Carl, let me start with you. You're member of the Unity Party. What is Mr. Boakai doing here? Is he kind of rallying support?
He's disgracing us. What are you doing, man? Look, let me tell you something. I'm a member of a political party that's an institution that was established in 1984. This is a political institution that now includes the Liberian Action Party, which was also established in 1984. We are not a cult of personality. and no one individual is the Unity Party. As a member of UP, I am very much disappointed in the way that the leadership is taking the party. Does that mean I'm going to say I'm not a member of the party? No, I'm not going to say I'm not a member of the party. Do I agree with what I see happening? Am I happy with it? Absolutely not. I have been calling for open primaries. I don't believe that Unity Party Constitution supports a standard bearer for life. And this white ballot thing, everybody, oh, just let it papego. We don't, that's not what political institutions do. His tour, I respect him as a human being, as an individual. I don't like the way the leadership is proceeding. And I think that him coming to the States and surrounding himself with people who, some people, not all, a lot of the people he's around are very good, citizens and upright people. So I'm not condemning everyone, but there's certain elements that he's surrounded himself with that is a little off-putting for me. And I've been very vocal about it in the party chat rooms and in other places, so I'll say it openly. I just don't understand his strategy, this is not, but that, again, I'm just one member of the party. I'm not a leader. I don't have any position. I just pay my dues and talk and nobody listens. So I mean, what else could I do?
Mr. Weah.
Hey, don't put your mouth on my party today, I beg you.
Yeah, Mr. Goya, you are on mute, and
keep him on mute. He laughing.
Oh, okay. So even prior to, you are in Minnesota, and the presence of the Unity Party USA branch is very strong in Minnesota. Just before the VP could come, there was an attempted coup, as I learned.
I don't know if it was attempted or if it's a long drawn out coup. I don't know.
But
then let's talk different thing, man. What?
But the chairman or Kepler Doyen survived that coup, he told me, and now the standard bearer is here. He's making, to his credit, he's making some media rounds, and I see that, and I like that the vice president is talking. Cole made mention of some of the people that the vice president or the former vice president has surrounded himself with, and as we speak, there's a program going on. What do you think is the long-term strategy of this visit?
Well, two caveats first. Just like my Boakai, being a Kisi man is my uncle traditionally, so I'm going to be careful what I say. Number two, I am not a Unity Party partisan, and I don't want Kau to get mad at me, so I would be really careful extra what I say about her party. But all joke aside, though, the same thing we are saying about the coalition that is in charge right now, that people that the president surrounded himself with or has surrounded himself with are not the best people for him to have the variation in opinions that he would need to make really good decisions. We said that. We have opened the eyes of the Liberian people to that if we're going to elect a leader, we want to see the people around the leader, that the leader surrounds himself or herself with. And to Cole's point, that is troubling when you look at what's happening right now with the Unity Party. Right. Kepler might have told you that he survived the coup, but I've seen some live program where there is an acting chairman being recognized as acting chairman. And then there are some programs where Kepler is being recognized as chairman. So we have a situation where you have a chairman and an acting chairman. Depending on which of the programs you are at, there is somebody who is either the chairman or the acting chairman. It's sad. And if the opposition is trying to tell the Liberian people that we would do better, you have to give an alternative. Your life has to be an alternative that they see. It just can't be on paper. If you're having a crisis in an auxiliary wing, and the standard bearer, well, sorry, but that's how we know him, and the standard bearer comes to town, and he's meeting with everybody and validating everybody. For me, that speaks to an absence of political will to look at people in the faces and tell them who's wrong and make corrections.
Right.
So for me, that is really troubling. I actually thought that when our uncle came to town, first thing he was going to do was to fix problem in his house and let the people know who is the chairman. If there is going to be the acting chair that you endorse, then the people move on to know who to follow. But as it is right now, CDC, USA, Canada, they don't know who to follow. So it's a splinter group. How do you go back to the Liberian people and say, entrust me with power when you can't even fix what's happening in your home? I'll stop right there.
Jessica, I mean, you can begin from where Cece stopped, but the bigger question here is Vice President or former Vice President Boakai with all these issues, but to his credit, again, I said he's making his media rounds, he's talking to the press, and he's still trying to assert himself. But I see here that if you look on the Unity Party side, they have their own attack dog, who is like a loose cannon. Even though VP Boakai may add like he's on his own, but when you look at what's happening, it's like everything that he has spewed out is from his endorsement. If you look on the Alexander Cummings side, you see his own attack dog, who he is not openly endorsing, but he's kind of benefiting from what he's doing. What is this thing with our political party, especially the opposition bloc that's supposed to provide the alternative to what we have now? I'm not satisfied with the Weah's government, but what I see and what is happening in there is giving other people pause. What's your take?
So you see, first and foremost, I think it's sad to see the opposition bloc in such a turmoil.
You're smiling as if you like it.
No, I'm smiling because I am amused that at this crucial period in their journey towards election, they've not even come to terms with who they want and what they want to do. So right now, they've given CDC vacation. They put it on vacation. Y'all go rest. We will do the disruption amongst ourselves on Facebook and make clowns of ourselves on Facebook while everybody else watch. And that's why I'm amused, because by this time, if the opposition bloc does not know their importance to the extent that they are not working together as one unit, it's alarming. It's very, very alarming. Why did they come together in the first place? Because they needed to remove a giant party, a sitting government. Now they come together and then the people are worse than when they started. They are worse than when they started. So it's like you put things together, and then once the things start to form, you decide to break the whole thing. That's kind of where I stand. And when I look at the whole situation, it's sad for the people that believe in these different leaders. It's sad that these different leaders have decided not to come to terms with the bigger picture that their followers, perceived or saw in them.
Yep.
And Cummings came to the state about 2 weeks ago. So Papa Joe got to come to the States too afterwards, because there is competition in the various parties. We have Youngblee on the other side trying to do her own thing. We have Musa Belete in the middle shooting all the different bullets to different sides. Boop, 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 boop. We got Ure in the background, who does all the dirty work but don't like to show his hand. It's amazing how these people have brought themselves so low down to the people that trusted them to do a simple job. So at the end of the day, I don't think any one of them should be traveling out of the country. I think they should be sitting over there and trying to find a common ground as to how to move things. Now, Cummings, ANC say they don't want to be a part of the marriage anymore, and now they're sitting and ready to mingle. So CDC going to use that opportunity to whoop them up and go to another place. And we got them talking about the gossip, the headquarters that needs to be paid for. And I mean, so many different things. It's like we lost the bigger picture of what we're supposed to be doing. And we have decided to be mediocre politicians or mediocre people that discuss politics when it comes to the things that matter most to the Liberian people. So I don't know what the Papa is doing here. I really don't know what he's doing here. It's great for him to be here, but I don't think at this crucial time he should have made that mistake to be here. Because when Cummings was coming here about 2 weeks ago, when they had their big function where they all came together, people talked about it and said Cummings should have been there. Cummings came and he decided to not invite Nyong'li, so they left her out. Then the Papa too has also left and come on his side. So it's like everybody's trying to do their own thing and nobody's looking at the bigger picture, which is the Liberian people. But then going back to the whole thing, if we want to put it in a ball, we felt that this opposition would be here to teach the people how to vote and how to have the awareness of how to think for themselves. But that's not the case. We still have people in the opposition that have made themselves certain figures, and they have these gullible followers that follow them, and they do not see anything wrong with what they say, and they're not preaching the right picture or preaching the right message to the people. So everything is really disorganized. I don't know how they're going to come to terms to fix what is going on here. But right now, nobody should be traveling anywhere. People should be sitting back home and trying to see how best they can do the one thing that they're supposed to do, how to come together.
Thank you. And Kawa, I'll come to you. Last week when we were in our other show, when we're talking about the Tabata session, you made mention of something. So I want to come to the optics of the vice president visit. Backroom, please put that picture on the screen. The president is making his rounds, and these are our fellows. And then when you say this, they say these are our friends from another network. It looks to me that they are presenting gown, or somebody is presenting gown to another person. Either the VP is presenting it, or these journalists are presenting it. And after the presentation, we see an interview. So the optics there tell me is how fair can you be in that, right? Another optics, and I hope we have the picture, is the women's conference. I saw all men on the podium. And when you spoke about it the last time, I didn't really see it. I watched the video very late. We see that for women conference, it was all men. Okay. The two things I want to talk about here is this interview is very good that a former vice president is making the media rounds. But if the people that are going to interview you, they are having dinner with them and you are exchanging gifts, and after that you sit for an interview, how are we supposed to believe that this is going to be very fair and authentic? And then if you have a women conference that is all men, what is going on here? Is the vice president or the former vice president in control here? Or is he trying to call these shots to make people think otherwise?
Yeah, I'm not going to really get into that. I'm sorry, Dennis, but yeah, I don't believe. The only thing I do want to set straight, Unity Party is structured, from my understanding of the Constitution, that we elect a standard bearer for the purpose of election through a convention. And when the person loses the election, they cease being standard bearer until the next time we will have a convention and elect a new one. It could be the same person again. And, you know, people who interpret our Constitution that way are in the minority. And political parties are democratic institutions. We will have a convention. And when we have a convention, there will be people contesting for president. The women's group is not run by Joseph Boyka. It has absolutely nothing to do with the person who's running for president. I'm a member of the women's group, and I decided not to participate in the program because I didn't agree with the way it was going. And that's okay. Doesn't mean that I've left the party. I just, that's just not who I am. I don't just go along to get along. If
What do you mean? The way it was going dominated by men?
In the first place, this is the Women's Congress. The purpose of having a Women's Congress is because traditionally in Liberia, women have to find a space to express themselves politically where they're not going to be stifled by our male colleagues. Especially, a lot of the women that are in the Unity Party, the majority of women in the Unity Party are grassroots women. These are your typical Liberian women. These are not, policy analysts. These are not lawyers, though there are members of the Unity Party that are educated, but the majority base, the women of the Unity Party, are your teachers, your market women, your church ladies. These are the women that are making the country move. And they decided that they were going to hire, or not hire, but ask for the assistance of a very politically flamboyant, divisive person who is male to promote the women's program. So I said, okay, I don't think we should do that. They didn't agree with me. Okay, y'all go ahead. I'll watch y'all in my little corner. But I'm not going to give my energy to that kind of debacle. I just don't do that. And people always ask, they say, oh, but how can you be part of a party you don't agree with? Okay, there's a lot of things happening in Liberia that I don't agree with, but I'm a Liberian and I love my country. I'm not going to go out in the world and condemn Liberia either. I can honestly criticize certain things that people do, but I draw the line at certain points. You'll see me defending George Weah at certain points when I feel that, our sovereignty is being attacked, when I see, racists, condescending upon our country and disrespecting our sitting president, I will defend him. But at the same time, I see the stuff he's doing wrong. There's nothing, that's not a contradiction. That's you understanding the world and not just being a blind sheep. Principles are constant, situations are not. So when situations change, your principles should not. And that means at certain times, you will step aside and not be a part of something when it's going the wrong way. Right now, I feel that, involving, people like Obed, I don't know this guy. I've never met Obed in my life. I've only seen a couple of videos on social media. It's nothing personal, but the reputation. This is a guy, I saw a video where he was saying that he's the one who made up the lie that Cummings was gay, and he made it up, some video that my friend Muna Fahad sent me. And I thought to myself, that's ridiculous. And here is a presidential aspirant sitting with this person. That's just, it's disgusting, it's disturbing. Maybe he's a good person. I understand he was in the military and things like that, but, there's so many other people that are doing great things in the United States that you could sit and have a photo op with.
Yeah.
We have so many Liberians doing so many wonderful things in the United States. In all of these places you're going, I don't see them, and we have, the son of the founding father living in Philadelphia. His wife is brilliant. She's creative. She could have been one of the speakers that they asked to come and speak. Oh, Mrs. Kessley, do you mind coming? The daughter-in-law of the founder of our party lives in Philadelphia. They did not invite her to come speak. They got Obed speaking. What was that? It was just bizarre. So like I said, we have to meet people where they are. When you don't agree with people and you're in the minority, you still work, you speak your mind, and you try to influence people to go the way you're thinking. It doesn't always work as quickly as it should. But I will tell you this, I look forward to the convention. I hope, we get some good candidates that run. I think there are many other people that are qualified and capable of running for president besides the two people in CPP. The opposition is huge. It is not just the coalition political parties in the opposition. You have many other political parties that are not part of CPP. Dr. Fambula is still there. Tiawan Gonglo is still there. And there's many people, even if it doesn't come from Unity Party, Liberty Party, or ANC, somebody's going to rise up and say they're going to want to save the state. And I will support the best person. Let the cream rise to the top.
Thank you. I know you always say that. Jessica, I want to put this on the screen again. You are in this talk show business, and I'm not trying to knock on my colleagues, but how is this possible that you visit someone like a presidential aspirant you're trying to interview, you have lunch, and you are gowning the person? How fair is that interview going to be? What's your take? Is it normal?
You see, again, we talk about the gullibility of the media, and the media in our community and our society has done a lot of things that are not world view things that is done. And I just want to piggyback on Mrs. Famula, what she said about, inviting a man to come and be at a woman's convention to speak versus inviting a woman. All these things that we do, we talk about the people back home voting for rice bag and $5 or $10, $100, but we have the same mindset here. Because why would a man who has not done anything when it comes to women's situation be invited at a reputable women's convention to speak? What is behind him being there? So when we come back to this whole situation, when it comes to the media don't have, we as media people in our Liberian community, most of us don't have the professional behaviors or attitudes that we should have and carry as media people. We come up on our platforms and we're very personal. We come up on our platforms and we are very emotional. We come up on our platforms and we just speak any way we want to speak. We don't have even an association of media people because they are journalists, now they are talk show hosts, there are different things. We don't have an association where there are rules and regulations that we have to go by. So you see, people that are supposed to be doing certain things, they're not going to do it the right way. So right now, when this man goes and have an interview with these people, instead of them asking him the embarrassing questions that they're supposed to ask him, it's going to be all watery. They're not going to come up with the harsh questions. And based on that, we are not going to be able to get the information that we need to be able to make informed decisions at this time as to why is he here, what is his stance right now about stuff, and when he goes back home, what is he going to do? So here we are. We have failed as a media community again, because we had certain individual in our space and our time, and we did not use that opportunity to get the right information out to the public, and we have taken that away from them based on the way we have conducted things. And it's sad because the way the media controls stuff and the way we've been doing things, it seems like it's everybody's interest. You find one media, groups like Focus on Liberia, when it comes to the politics scene, that will really try to be objective, invite people from different walks of life, try to ask the more, the questions that really needs to be asked, so that the answer, whether they answer it or they avoid it, those questions are still asked. And other platforms are there to do these interviews, and they actually gave questions to these people that come to interview. This is a line of questions that you will be asked. Just answer like this and answer like this, so that people feel that we did an interview. It's not helping at all.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I will call it child's play until we get to that place where we get to understand the power that the media has and what it can do for the people, and stop being personal, petty, and all those things. Remove gossip and do logical thinking into our political trajectory of the country. We're still going to be mediocre, and that's just what we're going to be, mediocre. And I feel that a lot of people feel comfortable being mediocre because they just don't want to do the hard stuff.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Focus on Liberia Primetime Sunday. We are discussing murders in Monrovia, VP, former Vice President JNB's visit to the U.S. and President Weah at the climate change conference. If you want to join the conversation, please call the number on your screen, 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403. Mr. Cisse, before we take a short break and bring in our comments, let me ask you one last question on the VP's visit, because we're talking about the media, because things are happening in the country, right? There's one issue that the media did not really pick on, and that was when this whole thing about altering the framework document came about. It was alleged that someone at the NEC, the National Elections Commission, called Mr. Ure to tell him that, hey, your document here is so, right? This is someone at the Election Commission. Think for a moment that on election day, someone, because this person has not been identified, we have not really talked about it. Who's this guy? Because that behavior is dangerous. On election day, if this same guy calls and say, hey, you have won the election, right? And then the issues or the result comes out to be the opposite, what's going to happen? That's a recipe for disaster. So the press, especially as we go towards election, plays a very key role. And all these things are happening. The press is not answering questions. And here is VP. People are going to interview him. They are putting gun on him. They are having a fufu soup before the interview. Just talk to me briefly about the role of the media as we move toward 2023 elections based on what we see right now.
Well, I think the fufu soup is just following from the questions that were being asked when they were for the confirmation hearing for the, how they call it, the neck at the time, where they were asking that one lady if she can make GB. So maybe that's why they're following the fufu soup.
I see.
But on a serious note, Jessica made a salient point that the media controls what people hear, and they amplify what they want to be important. So there is a huge role that the media plays in our daily lives, whether it's here in the United States or back home or anywhere else. But I think one good way that we can start getting to a point where people can start trusting the media and ensuring that the media plays a pivotal role in everything we do in Liberia is when we can take away this whole idea of kato. Everything you got to pay for interview, you got to pay for this. And so if that is the bread and butter of that group, then people are always going to play on them. And that brings me to, something that Cole was saying. And it's a little segue. But when you all have all these groups in the CPP have all gone out and hired their own version of Prophet Key, right? So these are supposed to be their surrogates. And they're doing a disservice to the Liberian people. When a surrogate of a political leader comes on a show to be interviewed, people should be flocking to listen to that because they want to hear that person articulate the vision of their political leader, to articulate the political philosophy, the governance ideology of the political leader and the political party. What happens is quite often people come and they water it down. It becomes a pedestrian conversation about ageism. Joseph Walker is old. He got pacemaker. He should go down somewhere else. Alexander Kumi is short. He's not tall. He should go somewhere else. And to how to call the lady Yombli. She's sleeping with DeLong. Okay, how does that help me, the common voter in Liberia, decide between your political and governing philosophy? I didn't want to call it, I don't know what you call it, man, but your governing philosophy and that of the ruling party, because you want us to say that you are the alternative. If you are the alternative, then you got to elevate the conversation. But you can't pick on the average unity partisan, except, for my sister here, but I don't think she's the average unity partisan or the average ANC or the average Liberty Party person and say, can you please articulate to me what is the guiding philosophy of your political party? None of them can tell you that because the surrogates that are being hired by these political leaders, they themselves don't even know that. So they just come on talk show and insult people all day and water down the conversation. Like I say, I always call all of them their Prophet Key versions, right? They all come on, except they don't do the same bias, but they all do the same thing. So how can the media help us? there is a need for voter education. There is a need for civic education. There is a need for our people to know that nobody running for representatives should tell you, say, I will bill you a government toilet, or I will do this. They should say that we will work to pass bills to do that. Our people don't know that. It is the media responsibility to tell our people what are within the purview of these people, what they should be focused on. So if the media is not doing that, and if they're just being bought out, if they're following fufu, then they're going to ask fufu level question. And then our people are not going to learn from that. And then they're going to have people come to for confirmation, and they're going to ask them if they can make GP. And then that's how we're going to be around.
Thank you so much. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about President Weah's climate change conference. We'll read your comments and then calls.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Ja.
At the beginning of the show tonight, I played a speech by President Weah at the climate change conference. And I don't know what you make of that speech. It rubbed me in a different way. And we also saw, normally when the president goes out, people are arguing about, okay, what is the president going to get? So this time, anytime he goes out, we say, okay, let's see. And we saw pictures of the president. If we can put those pictures on the board, see the president, very cool looking there, and then he's taking pictures with President Biden. Other people came and said, no, that's a Photoshop. That's not really him. How is he with President Biden? He's not wearing mask. So that picture is not true. And those are the pictures that came out. So true or not true, I don't know what we get from these pictures and what they really mean, if that should be the highlight of the conference or not. I was looking at the climate change conference, and they have some goals, right? While they were there. Number one, secure global net zero by mid-century and keep 1.5 degrees within reach. Adapt to protect communities and natural habitats. Mobilize finance and work together. The president in his speech said, hey, you told us to take care of our forests. We finished taking care of it, but we ain't get anything from it. You don't give us anything from it. I mean, Mr. Goya, what do you make of the conference and the president's contribution?
Well, let me touch on the picture issues first. You see, this is exactly what I was talking about, right? The opposition, or at least people who are supposed to be in the opposition, instead of looking at the substance is the president's speech. What did he get? What did he ask for? Not what did he Photoshop himself taking, in a picture on Mars, right? So, but when I listened to the president's speech, I think it was substantive. I think he made some points that Africa, being one of those places, that suffers the most from the effect of climate change, yet benefits the least from those solutions. That is a logical point to make. That we are here, and you're asking us to do A, B, C, D, and not cut down our trees. Mind you, our people, for the most part of our lifetime, have been depending on those forests for subsistence farming to live. And so if we're going to be carving those out and saying, yo, you can't cut down trees anymore, we got to stop deforestation, and we got to do all these things, then you're taking away a livelihood. What are you giving back to fix that, or to account for that? I think those are good conversations to be had. My only problem, though, is that the president is asking to host a conference for carbon credit market in Africa. But in order to be the leader of that, you got to be showing some semblance of leadership on that. We all of our wetlands in Liberia are not protected. We select, and when I say we, I mean Liberia. I see my government acting on my behalf. Selectively goes out to decide which part of the wetlands that we're going to break down people's houses from, and which part they're going to allow people to live on. You can't do that. There has to be a comprehensive strategy on how are we going to get to net zero carbon neutrality in Liberia when all of our cars that get shipped to Liberia are heavily dependent on fossil fuel. And you can see one car pass, you see the smoke for almost 10 minutes before another car can come through, right? So I get it. For me, I like the message, I like his speech, but I think the preparation to implement his speech, the framework to implement what he asked for in his speech, I think is lacking. But I like the speech. I like for financial assistance. I like that he asked to be at the table, because we can't always have people talk about Africa as if Africans don't exist. So asking to be on the table, what are they going to go to the table with, and how substantive are they going to be at the table? For me, that's my question.
Carl, what's your take? The pictures, the speech?
Yeah, I mean, somebody wrote the speech. It started out well. It didn't end out. It didn't end up as good as it started. So the first part of the speech was extremely important. He wasn't really talking about. He was talking about the fact that Guinea Forte, the Guinea Forest region, is one of the major contributors to positive environmental stabilization. So Liberia is about 70 to 75% Guinea forest. And this is, our underdevelopment is actually an asset to the world. The fact that we haven't, gotten rid of our entire rainforest, like Haiti, for example, which is pretty barren, we contribute a lot of positive emissions to the atmosphere because of our rainforest. That being said, on a human level, we are not regulating the environment. There are a lot of toxins we discussed on the last show being emitted into the environment and other things. But our forests remaining, for the most part, I mean, we have logging, we have a lot of things going on, but our forests and our trees remaining intact for as long as they have helped stabilize the climate in West Africa, to be frank. So Africa as a whole is not as water rich and resource rich as Liberia is, right? So if you cannot compare many countries in Africa to Liberia when it comes to resources that we have per capita. We are one of the most water rich nations in the world. The amount of surface water, groundwater, and rain that we receive per capita is way above the global average. So there's a lot of things that we have to be appreciative of as Liberians, and resources that we can tap into to advance not only our living standards, but that of our children and children that are yet to come. The second part of Weah's speech, I mean, he didn't say the first part like I just said it, but I'm just interpreting what I heard from my perspective. But the second part of the president's speech, where he starts talking about carbon credit for basically for leaving the rainforest intact and not developing those areas, and talking about hosting a conference, he turned it from a position of power and positioned himself in his normal beggar stance. So I don't know who wrote the speech or if it was more than one person, but that was a big contradiction. He started off in a position of power, and then he drifted off and turned back into his normal Akinto beg, we need a help situation. It is 2021, and we have to, policy-wise, advance ourselves to be able to negotiate from a position of confidence and power. Nobody owns our rainforest but us. And that's one of the beauties of the Liberian Constitution that people like to condemn, but it is powerful. We own our resources 100%. No concession agreement that we've ever signed cannot be reversed. They can all be reversed, they can all be canceled. And concessions are not ownership. So he's sitting in a position of power. Instead of saying, I would like to host it so we can get some money for what? No, So we need to negotiate here. We are providing the world with a lot, and we are getting nothing in return. Going forward, we need to work out a situation that's going to be mutually and equitably beneficial for not only you and your children, but for me and mine. And if he had said something like that, I would have been very impressed. So, you know, and that's the truth. That's what we need to be thinking about. Yeah.
Thank you. Let me go to Jessica. So before we go to our comments on the President's Climate Change Summit.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little biased here with this question, answering this question. I'm from Grand Gila County, and there's a lot of deforestation going on in Grand Gila County. And I feel that if there were things done for my county, there could have been a projection behind the president where he would be showing that these are things that we have done. When you want to beg people for money on an international platform, you don't ask that you're giving. You show things that you are doing or you have done or you are into, and that will encourage the people to want to help you. My county sits bare. There's a lot of deforestation going on, and that is one of the main contributions towards climate change. And it's something that I feel should be looked at county by county. The speech writer didn't do the president any justice when it comes to the last part of it, as my previous panelists and stated. You can't come from a place of being up there and then just come down like that. It took away everything that he had tried to say, because you are not amongst like your fellow Liberians. You are amongst other world leaders. And this is a recorded conversation that we're going to have to hear for the rest of our lives. There should be more implementation done when it comes to these things when President Weah wants to request for help versus just talking about it. I really feel he had something to show the people than just say it. It would have made more impact towards his request.
Right. But Jessica, you know where this carbon credit thing coming from, right? Because during Madame Salif's era, there was this carbon credit. People had money, and it was misappropriated. A committee was set up, headed by my colleague, Nabalu Councilor Warner, and we know how it went. So President Weah is wrong. What's wrong with that?
Well, it's the same thing. When monies are given towards certain things, we don't use the money towards the things that it's given for. We misuse the money towards other things. So at the end of the day, we don't have a way to even give like account. We're not accountable of what we receive for the various things that we're giving these monies for. So, I mean, you will find a sitting president going back to request for more because what was in the coffers that was given was not represented and used for the purpose intended. And it's sad that this would happen because I think there's a lot of grants, money sitting around that at least the pot is so big that we can eat and still be able to take care of what the monies were given or the funds were given for. But we don't do those things. So again, I felt the implementation of showing what has been happening would have been much better, in my opinion, versus just going straight out and saying we need money and things like that. Because if I was a sitting president or I was a donor or I was a leader or world leader and I hear another president saying we need money, my first question would be, what did you do with the first one? Even if it wasn't from his government, what did your previous government do with what we gave before? What was it used for? Why should we give you some more if we don't have you giving us any account of what this money was used for. So that's just kind of where I am. The president should actually fire the person that writes his speech. They do him an injustice every time, especially in the international world. When the president goes out there, he should not have the tone of that of a beggar. He should have the tone of a president of one of the oldest African country in Africa. And they are writing these, again, I will use the word mediocre speeches, and they are putting this man into a place of lowering himself in front of the people that he's supposed to be, pursuing about the things that he wants. In order to get something from someone or a group of people, you have to at least have you have to tap into something, their interests or their emotions or something. And I feel that speech should have been geared towards that. So, Mr. President, if you don't have a psychologist on your team, you should get one. You should get a good strategist, and you should really get someone who really understands how to write a good speech so that you don't turn out time and again looking the way that they paint you to be. Because these people they write these speeches, and you look over it and you think it's phenomenal until you come and stand in front of the world and express yourself. And then you got analysts like me coming to tell you that it was such a terrible speech.
Thank you. At this time, and just from the Sapo National Park alone, the country can be a rich country, right? We had someone from the Sapo National Park here, and there are things that they need. There are people that have been living there, hunting, illegal mining, all these things taking place. I don't know if the president is doing anything about that, but yet you say, hey, give us something, we want to host carbon credit stuff. But anyway, let's go back to our comments here. We have this one coming from Thomas Awaji. Say, when was the last time a crime was solved in Liberia? What happened to the men who killed the journalist a couple of years ago? Is it possible, Awaji continue, that there are serial killers on the prowl in Liberia and not simply ritualistic? Professor Lara Davis, African-American, is Liberia safe? If Black diaspora want to visit during the year of the diaspora, how can the Liberian government ensure the safety of the visitors? More comments here. I want you to... Jimmy Ismail, I like that point, Miss Jessica. We are good at blaming, but which one of us can really fix? Or is engineering some real fixing? Nancy Gaga also said, thank you, Jessica, you are very good. Amber doesn't see it that way. Say, absolutely nonsense. The Weah administration has miserably failed the Liberian people. There is no excuse for normalizing senseless killings in Liberia. Joseph Conto, well, during Tobruk's day, we are aware of people who were put to death, including Tobruk's brother. I'm not sure. When Doe came to power, people connected to the authority murdered people, and nothing was done about it, and he has continued since. I don't think that's truly accurate. Anyway, let me go more. Ezekiel Roberts, we need a data for the PADT to face the reality of today. I don't know what PADT is. Rob Zua, we elected leaders to solve problems, not to accept and describe them as normal. We call this incompetence. Your platform that is supposed to push leaders to do the right thing, but are encouraging these things to continue. Activities of Interpol, Jimmy Ismail writes, counter-terrorism, to prevent and disrupt terrorist activities by identifying members of terrorist network and their affiliates, and tackling the main factors that enable the activities, travel and mobility, online presence, weapons, materials and finances, cyber crimes, etc. Then Jimmy is saying, Dumba said, Interpol solves murder of foreign citizens living abroad all the time. Bill Tubber was a previous diplomat. Henry Doe, Mr. Jai, to my belief in the death of Mr. Tubber is an inside job. Government must do an investigation by inviting all of the Tubber family. Bill was killed in their family compound that have full security. Abby Tyler, everything is politics. The hierarchy of the police and the justice ministry are political appointees. Those are a few of the comments. We have more here. Mohammed Salia Douglas, sometimes it is better to sit aside and allow others to do what they want to do. You can't force an entire group to think like the way you want them to. Thomas Awaji said the politics became childish. This comment is not good. When trees are cut down, who benefits? Those are a few of the comments here. Let me read the last one, and then we'll get you to Samuel King says, the government have put out 15,000 price tag for anyone who knows something about the murder taking place in Liberia. Opposition, you come up now and say the truth. Aku Joseph Koma, Mr. Jai, in our political dispensation, it is difficult to really see who is neutral, but you will see who is pretending. We are good at criticizing people for the wrong reason, but we do not want to be open to correction. Call is a good example of what I'm saying. She sat on the fence and justified her decision to not participate in the women's program. Sad. Call, you can respond to that before we move on to other comments. You're on mute.
Yes, Carl, please respond.
Yeah, I think that's funny. I never sit on the fence. I'm very much grounded in my beliefs and my ideology. So I don't know if they understand what sitting on the fence means. I am not a compromiser. So that's just not true. But yeah, I do justify why I'm not going, because I don't like what they're doing, and I'm not forced to participate in something I don't like. Once I explain and express myself, that's satisfactory to me. These are adults. I'm not in charge of them. I'm only in charge of myself. But I do take every opportunity to voice my opinion and hopefully try to influence and persuade people to think like me. If they don't, that is their prerogative. That's it. But they don't own, the party of Edward Kesley and Jackson Fia Doe any more than I do. We're all, part of a legacy of political unity in Liberia. It is an institution that our parents belong to, that we inherited. And, I'm going to work to make it a better party in my way. And they're working to do what they think is best. But I'm not going to disassociate myself with a party that I was literally born into just because I don't agree with the current leadership.
Thank you. Sierra Thompson said the speech was plagiarism because Alexander Benedict Cummings had been saying it. Dave Jar writes, are they prepared to share technology with Africa? Can Liberia benefit from the global economy so we can innovate instead of asking for carbon credits? Liberia needs advanced technology in agriculture. Jessica, your response to the comments, you can pick any one of them.
About the plagiarism or the technology?
Any one of the comments we read so far.
But the plagiarism, she was talking to, my fellow panelist, Mrs. Famulus. I'm not going to address it. I couldn't speak for her. So I'm going to go back to that question. Can you just put that question back so I can answer it piece by piece, because it's a long question.
Are they prepared to share technology with Africa? Can Liberia benefit from the global economy so we can innovate instead of asking for carbon credits?
Yeah, Liberia can definitely get on board with the rest of the world if we want to, but it's going to take time. And I'm going to go back to an example, Rwanda. Rwanda had war in the country, and Rwanda has vastly improved to the point now that they're making cell phones in their country, and they have fixed their country from that war-torn place and the mindset and everything. We have the capabilities to move on, but we are stuck. And until we decide to change the way we think, we're not going to be able to do it. Is it possible? Yes, it's possible. Well, are we able to do it? I don't know, Dennis.
Yeah.
I really don't know. And I
Since
think we have our children's children that's going to be able to make the change that Liberia needs to be able to move forward.
yeah. Since this
Because
one for
everything
you.
boils down to the mindset of the people.
Yeah.
Everything boils down to the mindset of the people.
I
And
have
when it comes
I
to
have a guy
technology,
here.
technology has to do with thinking. How can I put two things together to make it work, or how can I just build something to make it work? And I don't feel that we're thinking on those lines at this time. I think there is still so much confusion as to what is going on. And until we can get our own technology and our own things that we can be proud of, we will have to continue asking for crumbs. And that's just where we are.
Thank
We, we,
you.
we, we we have to shift. We have to
Yeah.
shift the way we think so that we can be able to do different things. On Abraham Maslow hierarchy of needs, the two basic needs, food and security, at the bottom of that hierarchy. Liberians don't have those two things. So how can even someone who don't have those two things that live in Liberia even think about technology on a different level, that, oh, if you put this together, you put this together, it will give us this, and this is something that comes uniquely from this country. We're not there yet.
Thank you, Jessica. Cisse, I want you to respond to climate change is an issue, but would like to see the government consider the gender dimension of climate change. I don't know what that is. Let me put that out there. Especially how it affects women. Women make 52% of the informal sector. Williet Dunbar say, I'm Liberian to the core, but now extremely apprehensive about even traveling home if I was offered a free flight on Air Force One. Dennis S. Kake, the government is aware of the killings that are going on in Liberia. Since the onset of the wave of killings, there has been no arrest, no investigation, and no comment from the president before the girlfriend and boyfriend comment has said by the president. Sister, let me just bring in one caller, and this caller, just be very quick. We are out of time. Jimmy Eastman, you are live. You have 49 seconds.
Dennis, again, thanks for the show. Wonderful show. As usual, I'm enjoying Ms. Fumbler's comment, always well-grounded. But I think she can move the needle in that party. If you know what they say, if you're not part of the solution, then you're part of the problem. You know that old saying. And it's as usual, Brother Goya always bringing some salient points. But I'm completely astounded by Miss Jessica Jarrett tonight. Miss Jarrett, I heard you on the other night on somebody on Minnesota. Somebody booms, you were cracking over there. I was appreciating that. Now I hear you on a completely different level. I do appreciate that. But what I'm calling for is to speak on your point your brother brought up, John. In fact, all the third world, many of the developing nations made this same point. The Western world advanced itself by the exploitation of its forests and its resources. Today now they telling us we shouldn't use ours. Okay, we're saying, okay, fine. If we don't burn, you say we shouldn't cut down our trees like you did. We shouldn't do it. Okay, what will be our compensation? Just what your brother said. Are you going to share the technology with us, or are you going to give us something so that we can try to catch up? But now you know that carbon pollutes. Now you know that we are depleting the oxygen sources of the world. Okay, we can get on board, but we need compensation because you guys way in front and you already used yours. You want us to save ours? Give us a fair share of the pie. And I believe in that. But and it was interesting that our president caught on to this and tried to champion it by saying, "Well, we invite you. Let's come. Let's plan this thing. Let's do this." I think it was a great opportunity. Of course, like you said, like you alluded to, you have to need a good plan. You have to set an example. But I think it's a great thing that he saw it and jumped right on it, because this is the next frontier. You don't want us to cut down our virgin. Give us something. Help us improve. Thank you. That's the only thing I wanted to say, George.
Thank you for your comment. And Jessica, Jimmy is stunned that he says he's seen a completely different Jessica.
But Jimmy doesn't know me like you know me, Dennis. He
Because
doesn't know me. And I just want to point out that Jimmy, there's a difference in drama and there's a difference in intelligence. People say I don't like to say this a lot, but I will brag about it because it's something that I work very hard for. I am a scholar, a known scholar from my university. So at the end of the day, I know exactly what I'm doing because I'm also I major in psychology. So when you see me act the way I act certain times, know that drama sells, okay? Drama sells a lot, but there is also a time when you can be serious to discuss the facts. The community that we have and the audiences that we have, they need both of these things for us to be able to continue to move in the way we're supposed to move. So I have two different sets of audiences that I speak to, and sometimes I have to come with the drama. So I like it when people come for me because then it gives me the opportunity to come for them as well, like what you heard me do on Friday. But today, here am I on this beautiful panel with very intelligent people like myself, and we are expressing our mindset when it comes to the trending things that happen in Liberia. So that's just who I am. I am whoever you want me to be. I'm going to be coming back on Focus on Liberia to talk about sex. So you guys just, wait for me. I'll be coming back.
Right. Before the pandemic, Jessica had her own running series here, Sex and Relationship Talk, and she anyway, we're talking to get back into that, but the time is fast spent. Sorry. Let's conclude on this, and Mr. Cisse, I'll give you a little more time to conclude and say your final comments, and then we go to call, and then Jessica, and then we call it a night. Mr. Goya.
Oh, what do you want me to speak on again?
The comments and the general comments, and then you can make your closing comments.
Do what?
Respond to the various comments we read, and then you can give your closing comments as well. So you have a little more.
All right. I think the issue of shared technology and especially in the agricultural sector, I think it's a great point. But again, do we have the? Are we ready? You can't be asking for something that you're not ready to or have the ability to hold and manage. I saw that the Deputy Minister of Education, I think a few days ago, in a report on Facebook said that now the government is going to be starting 3 pilot STEAM, fully STEAM schools in Liberia. That is the beginning point. I think if those schools are built and they're fully staffed and they're fully serviced as STEAM school, I think those would be places where we can start from and then start asking for agricultural technology, but also even just communication technology. We consume a lot of technology in Liberia, a lot of technological services. A lot of our people are on the internet. A lot of our people do a lot of stuff on the internet. If we can be able to afford them the learning in early high school or early elementary school to see how they might be able to utilize that beyond just text messaging and browsing through Facebook would be a great thing. So yes, to your brother's point, that is a great idea. It's a great decision to ask for when are you going to share the technology with us? But we don't just want to ask for technology and then we have to ask for the expertise to follow the technology, because that's what happens most of the time. They give us stuff and then they give the experts follow, and then they pay the experts, and then that amount is still built into what they give to us. So they give you $5 million, but 2.5 went to paying for the experts that they sent to you. So if we're going to be out,
some trouble there with Mr. Okay. Thank you. And by the way, Mr. Cisse Goya is FOL education analyst. Quite recently, he's being called upon to do the math curriculum for Mr. Goya. Talk about that. We want to celebrate you for 2 seconds.
That's it.
So yes, we got selected to serve on the state committee to rewrite the math standards in the state of Minnesota. By law, it's done every 10 years. They hadn't done it since 2007. So we are amongst the very few teachers and professors that have been selected to sit and rewrite everything your children learn in the next 10 years in the state of Minnesota in math from kindergarten to 12th grade, Liberia is going to have a hand in it because I'm on that.
Right, and that's Mr. Weah from Lofa County, Tobogi, man. Now is writing the curriculum. we thank you, man. Congratulations again.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Mrs. Famula, your closing comments.
Yeah, that's great. Dennis, I did send you 2 pictures of the Guinea Forest region 1975, the Guinea Forest region 2013. Did you get those?
No.
Okay, if you don't have time to show it, but I was just trying to show how much Guinea, Ivory Coast, and other parts of the Guinea Forest region have lost their rainforest and how Liberia's has remained intact. We do have some virgin forest, but I want people to understand that majority of our forest is not virgin forest. Majority of our forest is regrow, replanted. So we have always been involved in logging, slash and burn agriculture. Our environment is such that the forest can easily regrow. This is 1975. Look how thick the southeast is. Do you see the forest there? Do you see how? So what's happening in Grand Jita is not the end of the world. The environment is so rich that forest can recover. We just need to have a plan in place to regrow as we use. And even parts of Wisconsin and other states in the United States had been completely deforested because of agriculture. They replanted forest all over the United States, and that has helped stabilize the environment here. That's not something that can't happen. So one of our challenges, this whole carbon credit thing, is nonsense. We have people like CZ, like Jessica, like Dennis. Liberia has a lot of human capital. Unlike Rwanda, most of our human capital is still outside of the country. And that's unfortunate. We suffer from extreme brain drain. We do have some very educated people in Liberia as well, but we have a significant number of our academic and intellectual class outside of the country, and that's unfortunate. Rwanda had a much higher literacy rate when their civil war started, 65%, if I remember correctly, and we were about half that in 1990. And then Rwanda has not had the loss of infrastructure. So when people compare Liberia to Rwanda, Rwanda didn't destroy their infrastructure. And Rwanda also, they did lose a lot of human life, but their educated elite class is still alive. And these people are the ones that are advancing Rwanda. These are the people that are advancing the policies and making Rwanda better. So our focus in Liberia should be on human capital development. Here you have one of the greatest problems in our country is our education system. Here you have a teacher that the state of Minnesota is bringing on a panel to help develop curriculum. Wouldn't it be powerful if the Liberian government were to reach out? He doesn't have to go to Liberia. Guess what? It's 2021. He could work on helping to develop the curriculum in Liberia from right where he sits in his free time. We commit a lot of our time at no cost to trying to educate our people, to trying to share what we've learned, to try to share not only financial resources, but our time. We're building a digital library of Liberian history. We're not charging anybody for that. We're putting that together because we feel that it is necessary. And if not us, then who's going to do it? My point here is we have the land, we have the ability, we have the human capital, and we need to step up and do what we're supposed to do to make Liberia what it was intended to be. And I commend my fellow panelists. I was very impressed with you. And I just, keep growing and sharing what you know. I mean, that's our responsibility. As you learn, you share, as you learn, you teach. So, but yeah, we still have forest, Dennis, a lot, and we have more forest than any of our neighbors. Majority of the Guinea forest is within the Liberian territory.
Good. Well, the president wants something for it. Jessica, your closing comments.
Yeah, I just want to shout out to all my media colleagues out there. You guys do a good job. Notwithstanding, it's good to have subjective conversations, objective conversations. I mean, when we discuss things that are crucial to the growth of our country. And you can always choose to be a politician if you want to be, but sidelining those two things is confusing to your listening audience. And I feel we should do a better job when it comes to what we put out there. I think we have too much playtime that we don't do research before discussing certain issues because we are not held to certain standards. And we don't have any group that has a criteria of how things should be done. So I just want to shout out to everyone. We do a good job because we have people come listen to us. But based on the power that we have, we should put better content out there for the Liberian people because the Liberian people deserve better content. Let's stop watering down these conversations. Let's stop mixing gossip with politics. Let's stop selling ourselves short because at the end of the day, our generation will be washed tomorrow and our children will have a lot to say about this behavior. Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. More messages coming for our education analyst. Congratulations. And then our health contributor, Abby Tyler, say, focus on Labrador. Can you wish Nurse Practitioner Week to your health contributor and other Liberian NPs? I don't know about this week, but shout out to you, Abby, and other nurse practitioners, especially Liberian nurse practitioners around the country. We say thank you for what you do, and we appreciate you. And more congratulations to Mr. Goya. Coming up tomorrow, Mr. Anthony Sia, who takes no prisoner when it comes to politics, is going to be sitting down with the Secretary General of the Unity Party, Mr. Mo Ali, on the hour of politics. And this week, on Top Talking Thursday, we're going to be inviting the former Chief of Office Staff of Mr. Cummins, Anthony Mariah Yakula, will be our guest on Tough Talking Thursday, and we're going to be talking about the ANC, Alex Cummins, and the CPP. The following Thursday, we're going to bring in someone from the CDC, that's the USA chair lady, to talk about the CDC, President Weah, and the state of the nation. Right after that, we're going to bring someone from the UP, and that is all will be on Tough Talking Thursday. Keep it here and focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. On behalf of all of us here at Focus on Liberia, we say thank you to our guests for coming. Thank you for watching the show. And follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and everywhere where there's social media platform. Until then, we end with a song that says, we are all Liberians. Good night, and God bless.
We are Liberians.